Welcome to the Dental Decoders podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Rogars, and I'm here to help you crack the code on all things dental operations. Each week, we dive into topics to help you overcome roadblocks, streamline operations, and reduce team burnout. Whether you're an owner, a practice manager, or a team member, this podcast is for you. Join us for insightful discussions, engaging interviews, and practical tips. So sit back and relax as we crack the code on all things dental operations together. Welcome back, Decoders, and thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of the show. I am incredibly excited, as always, but even more excited than normal, to be able to share this episode with you. We sit down and have a super impactful conversation with Lauren Schieffer, who is also known as the Colonel's daughter. She is a renowned speaker and consultant on leadership development. With her 9 essentials of significant leadership, Lauren's helped practices and organizations of all sizes unlock their potential and cultivate the next generation of leaders. Her dynamic training and keynote presentations inspire audiences to refocus their leadership efforts, support their employees, and create a thriving office culture. Lauren is able to spread her message by doing things like study groups and obviously keynote speaking and one-on-one coaching and consulting with offices to help them really reach their leadership goals. Once you listen to this episode, you are going to want to hear more from her. So definitely check the show notes for more ways that you can connect with Lauren. This was one of the best conversations that we've had on the show because there are just so many gems in here. So definitely excited to be able to share this with you. Before we dig into the actual episode, I did want to share with you that this episode is once again sponsored by SKF Practice Solutions, which is your open dental experts. They are a team designed specifically to help users of open dental software learn how to not only use their software, but master it, to find ways to customize the database to work for you instead of you working for it. So if you're one of the many offices who uses open dental software and you are self-taught or learn from YouTube videos, SKF Practice Solutions is the right fit for you. They will help you learn all of the ins and outs of the database, analyze your software, and help train your team on how to use it more effectively. And as a special treat for our listeners, SKF Practice Solutions is offering 10% off of their comprehensive software exam, which is an over 100-point checklist that they use to analyze your database to make sure that you are using it to its fullest capacity. And all you have to do to claim that discount is to use code DECODERS at checkout, and that will give you 10% off. Without further ado, let's dig into this awesome conversation. Welcome to Coders. I am so excited to have you guys listen to this episode with someone I fangirl over just a little bit, Lauren Schieffer. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Oh, you are so welcome. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, Lauren, for people who maybe haven't had the pleasure of getting to know you yet, can you start by just telling us a little bit about who you are and your background?
Absolutely. I am known as the Colonel's daughter, and that is simply because my father was a career Air Force officer, and just about everything that I know, I stand on, I believe in, when it comes to leadership, significance, accountability, I learned from my dad or from other significant leaders that I had the privilege of knowing and learning from because of who he was and what he did for the Air Force. So my passion is building the next generation of leaders.
I absolutely love that. I love that the relationship that you had with your dad was able to make such a big impact throughout your life and career. And I just kind of love how your message all comes together. If you're listening to this episode and you have not heard Lauren speak, when you're done with this episode, go check her out on YouTube. So one of the things that you mentioned is you really want to create a path for the next generation of leaders. You want to help blossom people into leadership skills. So when people are working with you or they're learning from you, how do you start that process, or how do you identify where leaders need to develop their skills?
Well, I have 9 essentials. They are my 9 essentials of significant leadership, and they are the foundation of what I call significant leadership. And that is my passion and my aim for all leaders is significant leadership. And so these 9 essentials are crucial. They are paramount to significant leadership. So I start there, and each of them on their own could be a day or a week's or a lifetime worth of training and learning. Altogether, if you focus on that, if you filter all of your efforts through the 9 essentials of significant leadership, you will grow to be a significant leader.
Can you explain or kind of elaborate on what your definition of a significant leader is?
Absolutely. We are all familiar with the concept of servant leadership. Significant leadership, in my perspective, takes servant leadership one step further. Servant leadership leads to serve. Servant leaders ask nothing in return for the leadership that they offer. Significant leadership does ask something in return. Significant leaders expect that those we breathe leadership into will pay it forward and breathe significant leadership into the next generation and then the next generation. Therefore, the leadership concepts that we espouse don't stop with us. Significance. Let's talk just a little bit about the difference between success and significance.
Mm-hmm.
We are all wired to be successful. Well, success is all about me. It's all about how much money I make and what my title is and what my accolades are, where my parking spot is. Significance has nothing whatsoever to do with how much money I make. Significance is about we as compared to me. Significance is all about how many lives I touch and the manner in which I choose to impact them. Because how we impact others is a choice. It's a choice we make every day. So focusing on creating significant leaders who are looking to lead for the purpose of legacy and helping others grow first, rather than wanting that title in that corner office.
I absolutely love that. That's something that I try to achieve myself in my leadership roles. I think some people think it's kind of scammy because I'm always like, yeah, let me help you with that. Here's a free tool. Here's a resource. I want to help you grow. And because that's just not, unfortunately, the norm so much in today's world, people are like, what do you want from me in exchange for this? I'm like, nothing. I just want to see you be the best version of yourself and accomplish all your goals. And because that's just not the norm, I feel like people think that's inauthentic. So I love that that's part of your message, and I really resonate with that. And I'm so excited to be able to share that with the audience.
Yay.
So you have your 9 essentials. Can you tell me, and do they have to go in a certain order? I would love to ask you, what is like one main pillar of your 9 essentials?
Well, let me go ahead and give them all to you.
Sure.
We're not going to dig into them, but I'll give them all to you. And they do kind of go in order. And I don't know that there's one that's more important than any of the others. So, essential number 1, understand your own value. Understand that you as a human being have value because you exist, not because of what you've accomplished. And then understand what you bring to the table. So understand your own value. Essential number 2 is treat all people with respect. And one has to come before 2 because we can't treat others with respect if we don't respect ourselves. And I word number 2 very, very carefully, because it's not about respect for someone. It's about respect to someone. The Colonel used to say, you don't have to respect everyone, Lauren Ann. You have no right to disrespect anyone, young lady. It's not about whether I respect you. It's that I am compelled to treat you with respect. That's number 2. Number 3, act with integrity at all times. Integrity is what happens in the dark. Integrity is doing the right thing every time because it's right, whether anyone is looking or not. So that's number 3. Number 4, open your mind to new possibilities. A closed mind cannot lead, and a closed mind cannot grow. So open your mind to new possibilities. Number 5, cast a vision. Now, casting a vision could very easily be construed as Leadership 101 material. And it is. But significant leaders take the concept of casting a vision farther. For me and for us, casting a vision is about every individual on my team. What's it going to look like for them, feel like, be like for them individually? when we all get where we're going? Why should it matter to them? It's not about this is where the company's going. This is about where we're going together, and this is why, and this is what it's going to look like for you. Next, what am I on? 6, communicate respectfully. Say what you mean what you say, and don't be mean when you say it. That's not original to me. I have to tell you that. It comes from my friend Merrill Runyon. I use it with permission. It's the best, to me, it's the best definition of respectful communication I've ever heard. Number 7, lead by example. Again, Leadership 101 material, except it's so much deeper than that. Because in the 21st century, you are always being watched. Your team is watching you when they see you in the restaurant and how you treat the bus person or the cashier at the grocery store, or where that candy wrapper drops out of your hand. Is it into the trash can or on the sidewalk? They're watching you at all times. So lead by example, because your team will follow your example, whether you want them to or not. Number 8, celebrate the results of others. Significant leaders don't look for accolades. They look for every opportunity to give accolades. And number 9 is work for your replacement. Our greatest responsibility as leaders is to replace ourselves and build up other leaders, other significant leaders, which is why my mantra is help others grow first. So those are your 9 essentials. They do kind of come in an order, and I don't know that there's one that's more important than any other.
No, those were all absolutely fantastic gems. And we mentioned off cam, one of the main reasons I do this podcast is because I want to learn from the experts in the industry, and what better way to do that than in conversations like these. So I want to ask you a very specific question that applies to me, and that is on personal accountability. I know that that ties very closely into all 9 of your essentials there and how important that is. So if you were hypothetically working with a leader who had a difficult time with personal accountability, not necessarily out of like a mean-spirited reason, just I overpromise and underdeliver, or this hypothetical leader overpromises and underdelivers from time to time when they're talking to their team, what steps or advice would you give that particular leader in how they can grow as a leader by holding themselves more personally accountable?
Well, my first recommendation, if some hypothetical leader, if I were coaching or consulting with them, which I do, I would encourage you to flip your mindset, flip the switch, because you said overpromise and underdeliver. What if you underpromised and overdelivered? What if you looked at a situation and identified the very least that you know 100% you can commit to pulling through on, commit to delivering? Promise that. And then knowing in your mind that you're going to go even just 2% above that. I have a very good friend that I've learned a great deal of my leadership skills from. And his scenario is, what if we did 2% better? So take the very least that you know you can deliver on. Because unless I know for a fact that I can deliver, I don't make the promise. Because for me, it's an honor thing. So take the very least, flip the switch, under promise and over deliver. Start there. The second thing that I would ask, there are 4 questions. I learned them from my dad. And the first is, in any situation, what is the real issue here? What is the real problem? What is the real question? Not what do I think, not propaganda, not let's get down to very brass tacks. What is the real issue here? That's the first question. The second question is, what am I doing or not doing to contribute to the problem? The third question is, what am I going to do or not do differently to help resolve the problem? And the fourth question is, who am I going to tell that I've made this decision to help hold me accountable for it? Because people who make commitments to themselves and others and keep them inside very rarely meet those commitments. Those of us who do, it's almost a sickness. It's not always a good thing. The standards that, because of my upbringing with the colonel, that I hold myself to, and that's not brag. That's truth. Sometimes it's just a disease. So tell someone, Who am I going to tell that I have made this commitment to do or stop doing something so that they can help hold me accountable? Those 4 questions are good to ask yourself in any situation.
I really like the idea of telling someone about it to have outside accountability. When I think personal accountability, I think I have to be internal about it, and I have to hold myself accountable, but there's nothing wrong with bringing that personal accountability a little bit outside of just yourself and having someone else to help hold you accountable, because we kind of occasionally, maybe it's just me, put our blinders on when it comes to ourselves a little bit, and having that outside perspective is such a great takeaway from that whole conversation on personal accountability. Is it's personal accountability, but it doesn't have to be internalized.
And it doesn't have to be solo.
Mm-hmm.
Personal accountability doesn't have to be solo. And then it's also important to carry that concept one step further, that when we fall short on commitments we've made, you got to own up to that, to your accountability partner. Man, I blew it today. This is how I'm going to do better tomorrow. And another one of my mentors, one of his big things is every morning you reset your counters to 0. So I blew it yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Reset your counter to 0. How am I going to do better today? And sharing that, again, with an accountability partner helps rein that accountability in.
That's amazing. Before we kind of get to the end of the episode and I ask you the signature question that I ask at the end of every episode, I would love to ask you, if listeners are hearing this episode and they're as in awe as I am with this conversation and they want to learn more about you and how to stay connected with you, where can they find you?
Well, you can always find me at my website, and that is laurenschieffer.com. First name, last name.com. If they want to reach out directly, if they choose to reach out directly, they can get me at lauren@laurenschieffer.com. It's really simple. I try not to complicate things.
Perfect.
They can find me on all social medias. I'm just too old to TikTok, but Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you can find me there. And I am on YouTube.
I will put all of the links to all of the things in our show notes. So if you're listening and driving, don't worry. I've got you. Check the show notes a little bit later, and we'll make sure we share that. And you are definitely not too old for TikTok. Your YouTube content would kill on TikTok. Just saying. So, Lauren, as we wrap the episode, we end every single interview with our signature question, which is, in your career and life, what has been your decoding moment or secret code that has allowed you to be, I'm not going to say successful this time, I'm going to say significant?
I was thinking about this when you asked me, and that moment actually was when I rebranded myself. I had a brand that was generic. I thought it was cute. It wasn't sticky, sexy, or impactful. And because of a trademarking issue that I ran into, I was forced, it was kind of a God wink moment, I was forced to rebrand. And the branding expert that I was working with asked me some key questions. Mm-hmm. So you talk about respecting others and respectful communication. Where'd you get that from? I said, oh, my dad. Dad said, blah, 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 blah. You talk about conflict management. What brought you there? I said, well, if you ever met my dad, he was 6'6.5" and 285 pounds lean. When he lost his temper, people got hurt. He had to find a better way to manage his temper and conflict, and he taught that to his daughters. That's what I teach all over the globe. She goes, oh, okay. I read your first book, 14 chapters, 11 of which you contribute to your father. What are you not seeing here, Lauren? I said, I don't know. What am I not seeing? You're the Colonel's daughter. I said, yes, I know. I am the Colonel's daughter. Oh my gosh, I'm the Colonel's daughter. And the minute that aha came into my brain, the logo, which you see behind me, came together in a day. I designed that myself. I know branding experts tell you not to do that, but I designed that myself. It came together in a day. All of the brand reworking was done because the colors, they're Air Force colors. They're the colors of the United States Air Force. That was easy for the brand. It all came together in a week. And within 6 months, my business had tripled. And the reason is, for the first time, the message, the brand, and the human being are in 100% alignment. Mm-hmm. So what your listeners could take from that, from my decoding moment, is you have to be yourself. Because every person is unique. You have been created and crafted uniquely with your own set of gifts. You have to allow yourself to be yourself in order to be significant and make a difference in the world.
That is so powerful, and just another moment that I resonate with so deeply. I always felt I need to try and fit into the professional box because the dental profession is so professional. And the minute I stopped is when things took off for me, is when I started being who I am and not trying to fit into the box. So this has been just a fantastic conversation. I had all the feels today, so I'm sure our listeners will too. And I can't thank you enough for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join us on the show.
Oh, you are so welcome. Thank you for having me. It is an honor and a privilege.
Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of Dental Decoders podcast. We hope you took away a valuable piece of information. As always, don't forget to rate, share, and subscribe to help us build our community of dental decoders. We look forward to seeing you for next week's episode.